Hello ladies and gentlemen, it is Drop Pod episode 2, Keaton here, and I am finally joined by the other half of Tengu Drop, Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hey guys, how's it going? Finally made it for this one after missing the famous first episode, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what? What's interesting is this is the second episode in the second month of the year, and it's the two of us, so could we say Half-Life 3 confirmed?
I don't even know, man. That's like one of the memes I'm just so sick of hearing.
Well, I mean, that was my terrible segue into our sort of theme of topics that we're going to be discussing for this episode, which is I don't know, how would you put it, like the anticipated games that may or may never come out.
Yeah,
you know?
I kind of know. I know all about that, being as Shenmue is my favorite series of all time. But yeah, I mean, it seems to be like a lot more common these days, I guess, especially with like things like The Last Guardian still on like the back burner, and there's not really much info about that out there. But yeah, I think, I don't know, man, what have you got to say about it?
Well, you know, we're bringing this topic up for this this month's Drop Pod because Peter Molyneux has made the rounds in the press this month, talking about how like Goddess did not live up to the promises that were made during the Kickstarter, and you know, that once again sprung up the whole you know, topic of discussion where Peter tends to maybe get a little too passionate and promises a little bit too much in his projects. But I mean, for anyone who doesn't know who Peter Molyneux is, he's got a very like impressive back catalog. Like, he's worked on things like Populous, Dungeon Keeper, Black and White, the Fable series. He was even part of a little game that I don't think a lot of people know, but it was called The Movies. It was like it's kind of like a roller coaster tycoon, but for movies, you know, so you made your own movies and everything. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I think the thing that really, which is kind of sad, I think, is that his legacy is going to be that he overpromised too much, and he seems to have humility about the whole thing, but he seems to keep doing it, you know?
Right.
But that's, you know, so it's interesting to see that, you know, I think people are giving him more problems now because, you know, he went sort of independent with 22 Cans with Goddess.
Isn't there something to do with like a Kickstarter game or something like that? I haven't really been following it. I don't really didn't he like promise something to do with a Kickstarter game and he asked for money and stuff like that? I don't know. Yeah,
so the game was Goddess, which was
right.
It was, I guess you could say it was more of a return to form for him, because, you know, Black and White was a very much a god game. And you know, obviously he deviated to Fable for a while.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't know any of his games, you probably know Black and White. That's like because I'm one of those people who don't really, you know, I've not really played many of his games, but I've kind of been aware of them. Obviously, I know Black and White, and I actually enjoyed the Fable games. I played through all of those. I think I did. I can't remember. Like, did I go to like Fable 3? I think. And
Fable 3, and then there was the Connect. Was it Fable Journey? I think.
I always remember that one because I always remember him being at like something like E3 and like doing the video presentations for it, and I was like, "What is this?"
What's funny is that's a perfect example. When the game was shown off, he was Molyneux was like really adamant, like, it's not an on-rails game. But what did it turn out to be? An on-rails game.
Yeah, that's what I distinctly remember about that. And I kind of remember, it was the Rock Paper Shotgun article, right? They did like an interview with him and just called him like a pathological liar, or asked him if he thinks he's like a pathological liar.
Yeah, that interview was pretty harsh. It was hard to read through.
Yeah, I've seen like mixed opinions of it. Like, some people kind of really like praised the journalism, I guess you could say, and then some people just thought it was a bit too harsh. But and I'm kind of one of those who kind of sits on the fence about it, because I've not really played enough of his games to kind of see what promises he's kept apart from what I've read, you know. So
yeah, but I mean, you did play the Fable games, and I remember when Fable 1 was coming out, and I was really excited because when he said, and everyone brings it up, one thing he said is you could plant, an acorn at the start of the game, and you could watch it grow into a giant tree over the course of the game. And obviously that was something that never happened in the game. And then, you know, with Fable 2, he made so many other promises, and it gets to that point where you're like, okay, we probably should learn that everything he's saying should be taken with a grain of salt or no salt at all.
Yeah, that's kind of just the impression I have of the guy, and I've only played the Fable games.
Yeah.
And everything he says, I'm just kind of like, you just can't take it seriously at this point. I never have. Like, it would be nice to, but he always comes across as a person who maybe he just gets like a bit overzealous, like early on in production of a game or like in development, and just like, just start saying things that maybe he shouldn't be saying. Maybe like they tried to work on these things and they didn't work out.
Yeah.
But I don't know, whose fault is that? Is that his fault for kind of saying it at such an early stage, or is it like our fault for kind of expecting it to be in there? I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one, I guess. I guess if you did say it, you should follow through with it, or at least kind of say that's not the case anymore. Things change, I don't know if he does that or not, but
I would say in Molyneux's case, I can kind of see where the guy comes from, because I feel like I can see some of myself in him. Like, he has a lot of ideas that he really wants to make a reality, but the problem is that maybe the technology, or he doesn't have the resources to actually make them possible. So he might get a little too excited to be like, oh yeah, I want to make this game, but then when he goes back to his team, the team will be like, well, we can't do that, with our budget or with what we have, and I think it speaks loads to not only Molyneux, but the whole Kickstarter thing in general, because I think the main thing that really makes this situation more impactful than previous endeavors by Molyneux is the fact that he went to the fans for the money, for the to make this game. And I think that already with like Double Fine, like getting millions of dollars for their project, Broken Age, and overspending to the point where they had to sell the first part of the game to finance the second part of the game. I feel that the consensus on Kickstarter and even early access it's gotten really bad. Like, it's gotten to a point where like a lot of other YouTubers will not even touch an early access game until it's out. And from our perspective, our channel is pretty much, I wouldn't say dedicated, but a very large portion of it is to focusing on a lot of early access games. And I feel like, even when we're doing it, like, there is a possibility of us getting burned on a game we invest not only our money in, but our time into. Yeah,
it's happened before. Happened recently, but you kind of just hope it like works out, and you kind of just give some games the benefit of the doubt. Luckily, we're in like a position where some developers will send us press keys, and then there's a lot of games that we have to request keys for, and then a lot of games we have to buy out of our own pocket.
Yeah, I was going to say, majority of the games we still have to buy straight out of our pockets.
Yeah, pretty much most of them, and like even games like that aren't even released, like especially like the early access games sometimes, and it's like, man, I've been burned on purchases. We can remember the Cube World we bought. Jesus Christ, that was probably the worst example, because actually I bought War Z on day one, so I can't. That might be even worse, especially because you kind of went on a Steam sale for like $1.50 or something recently. But I got to play that for like the first couple of weeks and thought, yeah, this was a big mistake. Fuck this shit. But I guess you kind of fall into the promises again. You read the page, and I kind of feel like it's just better to wait these days, unless it's really something I feel like I can trust. I don't know, or I'm not spending a lot of money. Like, I spent £3 on a kind of a early access, not even early access game. It was like pre-alpha game.
But I mean, they're still selling it, so technically it's an early access title. I mean, that's the moniker we're giving to it. You're buying into the developmental process, like at its early stages, to say like, oh yeah, I want to support this title because I like the ideas that you're presenting and what you have so far.
It's just a weird thing, because on Kickstarter, it's like, what gets me about the majority of it, it's like the donation incentives, like, the stretch goals, I guess you could say, where they kind of promise like gameplay features for when they reach a certain amount.
Right.
And I think, I don't know, most of the games I followed, like, I don't think they've even realized all of their stretch goals yet, Like, let's look at 7 Days to Die. I mean, the very first instance of that before, I mean, I've been playing it before it even was released. I actually backed that on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And I know it's still in development, and there's, I can't really slay it too much because, development has been, I'd say, pretty good. They're still pushing out updates every month or so. And it seems like they're working on it. And but, a lot of the stretch goals they kind of mentioned, they're not even in the game yet, and it's just a case of, like, waiting, I guess you could say. It's just weird, man. It's just a whole weird thing. And I don't really know how I feel about early access because some games I enjoy in early access. I enjoy playing them. Some games do it right, but...
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of really good examples of early access done right. Like The Escapist, I would say, did pretty damn well for an early access game. And
that's a game I bought.
Yeah, even Nuclear Throne is another one. But the interesting thing is that I think at the end of the day, it's more down to customers informing themselves before buying into a product, because I think early access gets a bad rap because it wasn't ever clearly defined as like the guidelines of early access, because as many good titles that came out of either Kickstarter or early access, I mean, like FTL was a Kickstarted game that did really well, and they even came out with a huge update afterwards that just added so much more content to the game for free.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that.
There are obviously very good examples, but a lot of bad examples, like the Stomping Lands. That game was just abandoned even after a successful Kickstarter and early access.
Is that even on Steam anymore? Like,
no, it got pulled.
Oh, really? So you can't even buy it on Steam now?
Yep. I'm pretty sure the developers for that game abandoned it. The same goes for a game called Towns. I think they were supposed to get an update at some point, but it just kept getting postponed or something, and then like the dev just eventually just disappeared. And I think you can still buy that game on Steam. So it is a sad thing when you see a lot of games coming. Like I'll constantly check the upcoming releases, and there are so many early access games these days, and I'm just are they sure that they don't want to try and make a game before heading into early access? Because I feel like there's such a stigma on because people, I think the whole reason I get into early access is because I like seeing the process. I like being part of the process, and I think that the average consumer doesn't understand that. I mean, I don't want to think that the average consumer is stupid, but I feel like you should know what you're buying into. And I think that a lot of I don't know, it's weird because the terminology for the levels that games go through these days has been so skewed. Like the Evolve beta, it wasn't even a beta really, it was like a final product where they were just maybe beta testing the servers. And even before that, the alpha whatever they called it, that wasn't
pretty much
alpha.
identical. It's pretty much identical to the beta. It's just like a couple months before.
Yeah, so you're seeing AAA studios using these words like which have no meaning. So then I think that in turn confuses the early access audience. Well, Evolve's beta was so finished. Why is your game still so broken in the alpha state? Shouldn't it be close to beta, which is probably the almost final product? So I think we're in a situation where everything isn't too defined, and no one wants to really take accountability for what needs to transpire. Like, I think Valve has said to developers, like, hey, if you're going to put your game into early access, we suggest you do this and this and this. But they don't say, like, we're going to pull your game if you don't abide by X amount of rules,
Exactly, And I think, going back to, like, people's expectations of, like, early access games, I got an update, I think it was, like, today, for a game called Glitch Space, which is currently in early access, I think. It's not been fully released yet. And I bought it a while back, and they kind of pushed out, it was generally like a hot fix for an update it did like last week or something, where they enabled Oculus Rift support. What's the second version of the Oculus Rift called? It's like
I think it's still Oculus Rift, but it's like Dev Kit 2 or something.
Kit 2, They basically made it enabled for like Dev Kit 2. And they pushed out like a hotfix today full of bugs, and there's like one comment, and the guy is just like, oh, when are you guys going to start adding more levels? And I want more content, not this like bug fix bullshit. I'm just like, what? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's weird. I think I'm like very patient. Like going back to like what we first talked about with like games that like keep being pushed back or kind of like in development hell and things like that. Like,
Right.
if a game gets delayed by like a few months, I don't even care. Like, it doesn't bother me. I kind of just understand that, you know, games take time to make, and I'd rather wait for a game that's kind of like fixed than kind of just get one that's broken. And I don't know. I guess some people just aren't patient. Like, it doesn't bother me about like things like that. I mean, yeah, I can understand it if there's not been like an update for like a year or something. You know, you probably start to think, well, that was a waste
Cough,
of
Cube World.
yeah, like that was a waste of money. You know what I mean? Like, Cube World is the biggest example. Like, we spent that wasn't even cheap, man. I can't remember how much I spent on that.
I'm pretty sure, wasn't that like $30 or something?
Yeah,
it was
like
really
30.
steep.
It was like $30, and yeah, well, there was like no updates, and it's kind of weird because there was like giving like blog updates. Like, for those that don't know, Cube World is like I don't know what to describe it as. It's like a RPG, like with Minecraft's kind of voxel visuals.
It's a voxel-based open world RPG where it had a couple of like dungeons that you could do.
Yeah.
Had like a very basic crafting system. It was pretty much trying to be everything at once, and
yeah, it had potential. Like, if
Yeah.
that kind of got regular updates, that probably would have been like really, really good. And they probably would have made a lot more money than they made just by like taking the money and not really doing it. But then they like pushed out like blog updates saying they're working on new systems. Like, this was like middle of last year, right? And then it's just been like notoriously the quietest. I mean, it's a dev team of two. I think they're like husband and wife, I believe, maybe.
yeah.
And it was kind of like just a side project, but like, I don't understand. I don't know. At least if you're going to do that, at least keep your audience in the know, I guess.
Yeah, no,
'Cause I believe
definitely.
they had like offers from publishers as well to kind of help out, and they kind of like nothing ever came of it, so they just kind of refused that. And
Yeah.
I guess they'd rather do it themselves, which is fair enough. But if you're going to do that, you know, I don't mind waiting so long for updates as long as you're keeping me informed about it. Because now at this point, I just feel like you've basically just ripped me off for $30, and I don't feel like I got $30 worth. But you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, and that again comes back to the whole, you know, making sure you make, I guess, quote unquote, smart decisions with buying things, because technically, you know, no one forced us to buy Cube World, but
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know, I think it's safe to say we assumed that, you know, because Cube World was at such a pinnacle when it was at its most popular, like
Yeah, there was like a lot of buzz when that first launch came, you know, and you thought, oh, this game, you know, everyone seems to be getting behind this. You know, I'm going to invest in this. Obviously, you know, down to opinion. Feel like you made the wrong decision. I feel like I did. I'd rather wait. I wish I waited and seen that it weren't going to update it, and then I could make a decision like, oh well, I know what the game is now. Is it worth this amount of money? Rather than spending that amount of money hoping there's going to be updates.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it becomes a point where you're like, how can I put this? Like, okay, Minecraft started off. I like to think that Minecraft really put forth this buy-in early, see it as it develops, you know. But I feel like the difference between what Notch did and what's his face did with Cube World, Woody. I think that's what it went by.
Yeah, Wooly,
yeah,
something like that.
Something like that. What the difference was that the original version of Minecraft, the one that incentivized people to support it, was free. I think you can maybe still even play that free prototype, but that's the thing. Like, it started off as just a free project that people could jump into and see if they liked it or not. Cube World, you had to buy into to even try, you know. And I feel like if you're getting to the point where you're charging people for your product, your work, you do sort of owe it to those people to see it through the best you can. And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh well, you know, before this the Cube World dev would take months and months off from updating it. You know, that's not an excuse. When you're charging people for your product, you should at least show them enough respect to keep them in the know, even if it's just a basic update of don't worry guys, we're still working on this. So,
exactly.
You know,
you don't even need you don't need video, screenshots, anything like that. It's just a crappy tweet.
Yeah, just to know you didn't cut and run. That's pretty much my thing.
'Cause that's a big thing. people don't, there's obviously been a few kind of stories about Kickstarters and things where they kind of just take the money and you don't even ever see the game.
Speaking of shady Kickstarters, what about that? What was it? Ariel?
Oh yeah, Ariel by the stalker there. Yeah.
Dude, did you ever go down that rabbit hole? Like,
dude, I followed that like all the way to the end. I was loving that shit, man.
So for those of you who don't know Ariel, it was a game that popped up on Kickstarter that promised to be the spiritual successor to the Stalker series.
Yeah.
And it was very questionable because none of their any assets were theirs. Like, it was all assets either from like freemiums or wherever you can find them, Google. So pretty much Kickstarter closed their project, and then they came back, but then they did it on a Kickstarter copycat that they made, I think, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
It was extremely shady. And it's just, I mean, that just proves that there are a lot of people out there who are just looking to make a buck, fast, easy cash, scam people. But, we're talking a lot about like indie devs or people who do not have traditional publishing, looking to the community and general public for their money, But there's a lot of cases where like even AAA, quote unquote AAA games that don't even make it. Like, we're talking about like Half-Life 3, The Last Guardian. For a long time it was Duke Nukem Forever. So I mean, I would pose the question to you: would you prefer a game just be in continuous development to the finish, where the final product is something like Duke Nukem Forever, or would you rather just see a project die off, just sort of dissipate into the wind, into the darkness?
I don't know. That's a weird question, because it's like, if you kind of just give me the only option that if a game does release, then it's gonna not live up to the hype like Duke Nukem Forever didn't, I guess. But I don't know. I think I'd like to see games come to fruition, but I'm probably biased because I've been waiting for Shenmue 3 for so many years. I'm still under the hope that one day maybe we'll get it. I don't know. It's one of them things again where I don't really think about it too much until something concrete happens. I don't really sit around waiting, and I don't get angry and start writing devs and shit like saying, when is this coming out? I just don't care. I'd rather, what I like? I like it when indie games get released and they're not in early access and they're just full games. Like, that's what I like. Like Antichamber, that was never in early access. There's like nothing about that game at all. Like, you literally bought the game, you had it, you played it. Like, there was no process of like feeling out or anything, and that's like one of my favorite games of all time. Like I'd even say that, not even just indie game, but I love that. Like Mias Martyr is another one, probably not as good as an example as Antichamber, but just because that Mias Martyr release is a full game, and I had a lot of fun with that game. Like, I played that straight through, all the way through, and there was no early access for that. And if anything's going to have early access, you kind of feel like that would have been the kind of game that had it, just because it's like a first-person like exploration game on an island, and that just screams early access to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would like to see games get realized. I don't like to see games ever disappear like that have been announced. But it does intrigue me, like unreleased games and things like that.
Well, I mean, see, that's the interesting thing. You say that Duke Nukem Forever was a letdown. I personally didn't feel that way. As weird as it sounds, I didn't feel that Duke Nukem was a letdown. Because if you think about it, I know that a lot of people get caught up on the whole 14-year development cycle, but I think a lot of people forget that game was broken down and built from scratch for I think 3 times in its developmental cycle. So I mean, like, you look back at the very first trailer for Duke Nukem Forever, it was pretty much the next Duke Nukem 3D. It was like the next step from Duke Nukem 3D. And I feel like if you play Duke Nukem like a modern day shooter, you're gonna be disappointed. But I always felt like Duke Nukem Forever is like a relic that was dug back up and tried to put back into the modern world.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can tell it is janky. It's full of old school mentality, but you can see where they tried to make it modern and just not got there. But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I just have a personal bias because of nostalgia, but I feel like it's pretty much what I would expect from a company that hasn't released anything, and their last, I would say, major release was what, Duke Nukem 3D? 3D Realms. I don't even know what they did after that whole slew of like Blood and Duke Nukem 3D and all of those other games in that series. But I felt that way until I played the Shadow Warrior reboot, which did 90s shooter pretty well, but modernized it to a great extent, you know. So I mean, yeah, I can understand how people felt like after 14 years Duke Nukem Forever was a failure, but I don't know.
Right.
I felt like it actually did pretty well. And was it worth 14 years? Hell no. But you know, it was great to see that series, that game finally come out. And
that's the thing with games that take such a long time to release, though. The hype just kind of goes overboard, and I don't really get caught up in that. I try not to, but I don't know. I would like to see some games one day that I've been waiting for. That would be nice. The Last Guardian, you know, I know that's like the big one at the moment. Everyone's like waiting for. I'm just sitting on the back burner again. I'm just like waiting for an announcement, and then I'll be like, oh cool, it's not cancelled, or an announcement where they actually say it is cancelled. All right, it is cancelled. Fair enough. On we go. You know. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't really. I kind of see a lot of the hype and a lot of the buzz, and I just kind of sit back and just wait for games to come out, and then I buy them. Like, I don't know.
I think that's an interesting thing too. Is you know, as we get older, like we have more things that take up our time as adults, you know, and you know, it gets to the point where like you don't need to buy the games when they come out immediately anyway. Yeah. So you know, I think we're getting used to the fact that we can wait. But you know, the younger audience is like, I want it now, you know.
Well, that is true. When I was younger, you know, I used to buy every major game on release, you know, no matter when it came out. Even if I had like a backlog, you'd buy it and I'd play it. These days, though, I'm a bit more cautious about what I spend my money on, and I think a lot of people are, especially as they get older, like you say, and especially with the slew of games that have come out recently, which have not really lived up to the promises. I guess you could look at Assassin's Creed and things like that, and you know, it seems to be like a change that's kind of going on at the moment, from what I can tell, just from like looking on the outside. Like people are kind of waiting for games, and you know, there's a lot of people who kind of don't like the idea of pre-ordering games anymore because.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably save this whole topic for another podcast, but yeah, I definitely want to talk about like games worth these days, and you know, the whole payments thing. But
I just want to go back to I just want to mention one thing. Like the worst example of like Kickstarter and like early access games that I've ever seen was a game called Confederate Express, which actually reached its goal. And I was following this whole story intrigued me. So these two guys, they released a game called Confederate Express, and it had like fancy videos, gifts, all these promises. Exceeded the goal by like 4 times. It was like the $10,000 goal, and they reached like almost $40,000. And like nothing ever came of it. They did a few updates saying, "Oh, it's coming, you know, get ready," and all this stuff. And then like a few months, like a year afterwards, after the game like had finished its Kickstarter. It turned out that the two guys who did the Confederate Express Kickstarter did a Kickstarter for another game. They did it under a different name, like a different company name. Yep. And this one was called Knuckle Club. And everyone was like flipping out, like saying, "What the fuck? You've not even delivered this game that we've backed, you know? We've pledged to this and we've not even got this game." And it was pretty angry that they was like funding another game when this game hadn't even come out yet. And I can understand like big studios maybe working on a couple of games at once, and you know, but this I didn't like the idea of this myself, and that was just weird to me that it was like funding another game whilst working on this. And they tried, you know, when they got caught out saying it was the same guys, they were trying to play it off like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, fucking this is like a completely separate thing. Confederate Express is still coming and all this shit." And I don't know. I think the Knuckle Club Kickstarter actually got cancelled. Like, I guess a lot of people complained, and it also turned out that the two guys got put into the news because they was like squatting in like an Airbnb house.
Yes, yeah. What was it, like some kind of legal loophole, right?
Yeah, right. I think they like been there for like 30 days or something. I don't even know, but I remember reading the article, and like that came out, and then you know, apparently they'll stay in the house, and then the last known thing about it is that they fled the house and then never been heard from again. Like this game is just like still like not been like no one's heard back from Kickstarter or those guys. And man, that's just crazy to me. And I love that. I love reading stories like that. I mean, it's pretty shit for the people who backed it.
Yeah.
But it's just so intriguing to me that like I don't know, it must suck.
Yeah. But I mean, coming back to where we started, it's really, you really gotta make sure if you're ever gonna kickstart or support something on early access that you really look into it. Like, make sure not only do you know what you're getting into beforehand with the developmental process, but also realize that you really need to trust in the people you're backing, and if those people turn out to be con men, that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah. Especially when you're backing a Kickstarter that has nothing to show for it.
Exactly. Like, we recently did a video for Strafe, which actually it hit its Kickstarter goal. So I think it's in stretch goals now. But to be honest, I really liked their marketing campaign, and that's what drew me to the Kickstarter in the first place. Yeah. But the second thing that really convinced me to do a video and to help promote them the best that we could through the channel was the fact that even though it was broken to hell, they released a playable demo version of it.
Right. Yeah, I think that definitely helped him, because I think it was on the last couple of days, right? I think.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely helped. Not only did it get all like the gaming sites kind of talking about it because they made news posts about it, and put it out there. I think that was a really good thing to do, actually. Not just for marketing, but just for like player faith as well. Just people who's like already funded it.
Exactly.
Pretty cool.
I mean, because what that did for me at least was it really showed me that these guys are serious. They have something that already in the works, and it's not just an idea on paper.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, if you're thinking about kickstarting some project that you see online, do your research
as best you can.
As best you can. If anything looks shady, you may want to do a little deeper research, or maybe hold off a bit and see what happens, or something. I don't know. We are in some crazy gray areas these days as things advance and new trends happen, and early access is one of them. So it's crazy, and even AAA studios are sort of getting into the mix and making it even more complicated. So we are in such a new territory that you really, as a consumer, really gotta watch your own back out there. It's a wild west, I think is the term there.
Before we wrap this up, man, let's go through some anticipated games quick that are coming out in the next month or so. What am I looking forward to? Not a lot, to be honest with you. I don't think there's actually much coming out. I know Cosmocoria is getting a full release in March. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's been in early access for a while. And Standpoint, that's coming out early March. The channel is going to be flooded with Standpoint content, I'd imagine. Maybe not quite on the levels of the Talos Principle, but...
Well, you never know how many Easter eggs there could be in there.
There's definitely some. I know there's going to be secrets, so that's going to be fun to find. Yeah. But I'm also looking forward to, and Dev did confirm in our Twitch channel when I was playing it the last time on Twitch, the Talos Principle, that they are working on DLC. So
nice.
I don't think they've even officially announced that.
Oh snap! Tengu drop exclusive. What?
Yeah, pretty much. But the Dev did actually say that they are working on it, so that's pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. I have no idea which direction that's going to go. And I'm not going to get into the Talos Principle story or anything, but that's going to be interesting. I'm excited for that. Well, that's, let's not talk about that because I literally know nothing about it. So.
This month, Hotline Miami 2 comes out, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah.
I think you'll be doing the videos for that for the channel, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. We don't know who's going to do that. I can't believe we've never had a game really that we're both like really into. Where we've never had to like debate about who covers what for the channel. I think that's pretty cool. Like not once. Like we play completely different games for the most part, so it always works out pretty well. But
but if Hotline Miami ever puts in like online leaderboards, I think you and me are gonna have to throw down at some point.
It'll just be a week of just Hotline Miami 2. Just like you do it on Tuesday, me on Wednesday.
I'm gonna wake up one day and see Joe at the top of the leaderboard. Hell no, all videos for today I'm supposed to record. Screw it.
Or the video titles will be just like, eat shit, Keaton. 2 minutes 37 or something, and then you'll kind of reply the next day. But yeah, that should be fun. I mean, you know, we can always do a bit of unconventional videoing where we both commentate at the same time, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're there again. There's always things that we're trying to work on in terms of videos. Exactly. There are a couple of other games that I'm looking forward to, but probably not going to mention them yet because I don't know. I noticed a lot of games that I've been anticipating have been getting delayed. Like, so.
GTA 5, man. What are you doing with that? You're gonna get that?
Yes, GTA 5. I'm still on the fence if I want to purchase it at launch, just because I purchased it at launch on the console.
Same. I've done it all on the 360. So
I don't know if I would feel comfortable spending $120 on GTA 5 twice.
I did actually sell my Xbox copy once I completed it because I wanted to wait for the PC version. So I actually got more back when I sold it than what I paid for it. That's an interesting story. Yeah, second hand. How does that even work? But it did. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll see if I'm going to get it on launch. I would like to do videos on it. I think a game like that is so easy to make content for, especially if we're going to be doing multiplayer for as well.
Oh yeah, man.
It's going to be a fun one to play online.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see, I guess. We'll see what else is on the horizon for Tengu Drop and the videos.
Yeah.
I've still got a couple recorded now, that a couple of like unreleased games and things like that. So we'll see in the next few days. But yeah, there it is. Drop Pod 2, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to finish up the podcast by issuing the questions to you. How do you feel about early access games, Kickstarter games? What Kickstarter games have you backed? Early access games that you've contributed to, or well, you know, your money at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we would love to hear your good and bad stories with early access games. I don't know, what do you feel about Peter Molyneux? Pretty much anything we talked about.
I think we should like to start devoting our channel to like shit early access games, and then we can have like a motto like, we play them so you don't have to, and we can like just become one of those like angry YouTube channels who like.
Well, here's the thing.
Rants.
There are some, at least Jim Sterling, you know, he's independent now. You know, he riffs on trailers, just the trailers for early access and greenlit games.
Oh wow!
And
I should send him some.
I feel so bad for the guy because he has to go through so much crap with devs, like even Total Biscuit too. Like, you know, they have to go through devs who cannot take the criticism and just like try to threaten legal action. I don't know if we can deal with that. Like we have, at the worst we deal with nowadays is either copyright issues or really angry commenters.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to stack on copyright threats.
yeah, exactly.
But again, I feel like in a way we sort of do cover early access games, so we do sort of stick our feet in the water once in a while and say, you know, whether or not this game is worth your money at this time, you know.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to do when you're kind of playing early access games on the channel, because what I take into account is that people might find this video 7 updates later and base their buying decision on that. So I always try to be fair and like say, like, kind of be honest, see if it's like, you know, if I think it's got potential, I'll say it. I'm not just going to be like, this game is fucking total shit, never buy this game. But I will say, don't buy this game in its current state. Wait and see what happens. Follow the game if you're interested in what you've seen today. You know, I think that's like a fair way to approach early access titles when we're covering them. Yeah. But we don't need to get into that shit.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, that was the Drop Pod 2. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Joe, for joining me for episode 2.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do it again. But yeah, so once again, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Would love to hear from you guys, even about the podcast. How do you guys feel about the podcast? That would be a great thing, so we can learn
anything you want us to cover, anything you want us to change, whether you like it or you don't.
How do you guys feel about the name Drop Pod, by the way? Like, I haven't invested any. Yeah, I kind of like it too, but I haven't invested any time into making any graphics or anything for it too, because I'm not sure if people like this name or not. I feel, you know, so
I think it's Drop Pod. It works.
Yeah. So
what's the other one we came up with? I'd like another name in the
Tengu Talk. I think it was Tengu Talk. That was the other one.
Drop Pod is having Tengu Talk. That's my opinion.
I feel like Tengu Talk is, we would need to have like a set, with like, and you're not the father.
Yeah, it sounds like yeah. We're gonna have to like polygraph tests and shit. Maybe that's what we can like work into the visceral cleanup detail ranting videos. We'll see.
But anyway.
But yeah, what about Rami from Vlambia wearing our t-shirt? Did you see?
Yeah, what was it? He got recognized from his t-shirt, and then they recognized who he was.
Recognized him.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
How is that even possible? Someone recognized the logo on his t-shirt and then recognized him from the logo.
Yeah, man.
No, we've got silent fans out. If you're that guy who recognized him and you watch these videos, man, give us a shout.
Shout outs, man.
It's pretty cool that people are recognizing our logo out in the real world. That's insane to me. That's just insane.
And once again, just shout out to Rami for just wearing this t-shirt in general.
Oh, I need props to that guy. He's a cool dude.
I like the fact that at least one person has put our t-shirt into their daily rotation their rotation of clothing. That's pretty cool.
Traveling, man. That's like,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. We'll just end on that positive note. That's cool.
Feeling great. Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. So there we go. Tengu Drop podcast drop pod episode 2. Thank you for listening or watching. I don't even know what the game is gonna be. Mystery.
Maybe we can cycle some of that aerial footage.
Oh god, hell no. See, we get copyright strike from Aerial. No,
this
Unity. Is not even your footage.
There's generic Unity assets that they used in their trailer.
Anyway, yes. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. And yeah, we'll see you guys next month with another drop pod.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.